It's winding up and it's live. And I'm going to check to make sure I can get my chat over here, and I can. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Digital Fortress. This is Rick here. Most of you know me. I also have Darren dialed in, an old crypto geek. They've dialed in to help answer your questions and help with the discussion about how all of these questions, how we're going to answer these questions. The primary main broad question is, how will Cardano staking work? And then there are sub questions written down up here on the board. And if you don't see your question listed up there, then if you don't see it listed up here, feel free to put it over in the chat. And at periods of time, I will go back here and I'll scroll through the chat and go through your questions and see if we can get your questions answered here. A lot of them might be answered as we go through this process, but feel free to put your questions right here. I see there's a few people already dialed in. Good deal. All right. Minister C Politics. All right. Welcome. Okay. All right. So, Darren, old crypto geek, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. Rick, thanks for having us.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here to help answer these questions. With the first one is, now this is to help the users out there who are interested. And if they want to dial in or go into the chat, they can ask. The first broad question is, how will Cardano staking work in the big scheme of things? And my basic understanding of, in the big scheme of things, we're going to have pool nodes that are out there, people who are pool operators, and individuals who are the participants in the protocol who hold ADA, and they want to join a pool. And so they're going to use some kind of feature to point their stake at the pool operator of choice. So that's the basic idea, right? Is what we have here, is how staking works. What's your take on that, guys? Old crypto geek, Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note like what staking actually is and what we're trying to achieve, right? Like when you're putting stake to the system, that's almost like mining power, right? So it's not just a it's not just a vehicle to earn a reward. You're being rewarded for securing the network.
So it's not just a simple passive income, which is what I often see on Telegram, is that people just say, "Hey, get your passive income." You're actually doing work when you do this.
That's the idea, right? You have to put your capital behind the system to secure it. If it's the difference with Cardano versus traditional staking systems, in those systems you would actually be putting your capital at risk. And I should mention, I mean, your capital is at risk. If you were to be supporting a node that was dishonest, then you would actually lose your stake, you see.
Yes, and if you are, let's say you're doing proof of work mining and you're supporting a node that's dishonest, you're applying your hashing power towards a dishonest node. But in this case, you're applying your stake to secure the network because it's a network resource, as opposed to hashing power or RAM or CPU power. It's using the stake itself as a resource, right? That's the general idea of the proof of stake, right?
That's right. It's a mathematical computation based on how much stake is delegated to each pool versus how much physical computing power, how much hashing power is being used.
Okay, and we don't have to follow those questions in order there about. So if we want to get into the hashing power and hardware and how much hashing power is using on a network with proof of work, it's hashing power. I have an extra question way down there at the bottom. It's kind of hard to see, what kind of hardware is required to run a pool. But in the case of proof of stake, the power of the hardware doesn't really matter, does it?
It has to be powerful enough to run the node client. You have to have enough memory and storage capacity and processing power to be able to do that. The beautiful thing is that is actually a very small amount of resources from a classic perspective. Marcus Guffler has been designing or figured out how to get this thing running on a ROX Pi system. You know, I think it's pulling 10 watts, something like that, you know, compared to a traditional, like an Antminer, like a Bitmain S9, for example, would be drawing 1400 watts at 240 volts, you know. So your power requirement is night and day.
Yeah, it is. I've seen that on the node that I was running. I'm running on an 84 watt node, and it doesn't even put a dent in it. It's, you know, the Jormungandr running on top of it. So there's the hardware for the stake pools, which is minimal. Then there's the hardware for the people who are using Daedalus and Yoroi, which any modern laptop in the last 4 or 5 years, as long as it's 64-bit CPU, will run Daedalus or Yoroi. Well, Yoroi runs in a web browser, so that's not an issue there. But you have Daedalus that runs as a full node. It needs a little bit of storage, but still doesn't use too much resources. I did a video on that also. All right. So how will Cardano staking work? There's another question.
Rick,
Here.
one question I'd like to get in here. So, has there been any discussion around, you know, when you lend your ADA to a staking pool, is that a transient commitment? I mean, can you move that stake at any point in time, or are staking pool operators going to have their own criteria around who can join? You have to stay for a month, you have to stay for 6 months, a week, or, I mean, has there been any discussion around that?
So the way it works is when you delegate your stake, your funds, your Cardano, your ADA, I should say, are staying in your wallet, or, you know, associated with your private key. They're in your wallet. So they never leave your wallet. What you're doing is you're going to sign a transaction stating that, signing a transaction with your private key, stating that you've delegated your voting power to a specific pool. And then because that transaction would be associated with the address that those ADA are held in, if you were to transfer them, spend them, what have you, that staking certificate would no longer be valid. So you have full control at any time. The pool has no authority over your funds whatsoever.
Awesome, thanks. And just to clarify, with the voting, Cardano's going to do something unique. When you delegate your stake, the value, you will not have to delegate your vote once we get to that point in time. Currently, we're just focused on staking and being able to delegate your stake. Then, isn't it correct what I've read before? Once we start delegating votes or not delegating votes, it'll be separate from delegating value, correct?
As far as I know, yeah, there are two separate systems and processes altogether.
Yep. And it's also called, with Cardano, it's called dynamic proof of stake. DPoS does not mean delegated proof of stake. It means dynamic proof of stake. So in reference to Darren's question, what will happen is you'll be able to delegate your stake, but you can still spend it. Your tokens are not locked up. Your coins are not locked up. You can still spend it. You can also redelegate it. You can delegate some or parts of your stake, and you can also delegate to multiple pools. So
Correct.
there are very few limitations. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The thing to note is that once you've moved those tokens, once they leave the address that they were staked from or delegated from, then you are no longer eligible for rewards, right? So that's the only thing to note. If you even if you transfer them to another wallet that's under your control, they will no longer be staked or delegated. You will have to redelegate them.
Okay, so in the 5-day cycle, if you delegate your stake, and it's in there for 2 or 3 days, and you pull it and spend it, then it's probably going to change your rewards.
So like you said, it's a 5-day cycle, and the slot leaders are determined at the beginning of each epoch, right? So let's say, you know, you are selected to be the slot leader for a block in the middle of the epoch, and you move your stake after 3/4 of the way through that epoch, you will have earned your slot rewards for that epoch, because as long as your pool operator was online. But if you had moved them prior to that slot that you were chosen, you would not be eligible for the reward.
Okay. Wow, you have a much more thorough understanding of how the math works than I do. I didn't know that there was that much detail to the process. I mean, that it was that granular is what I'm saying.
Your tokens will be associated with a specific slot. Your tokens are what determine the slot is picking. The slot leader is chosen according to the tokens themselves.
Okay. And the slot leaders also have a responsibility. Kind of jumping down to a lower question there is what is a pool pledge? What is a pool pledge in relation to a slot leader? And I got a pretty good idea what that means, but you have to put forward a certain amount of money to secure the pool, right? As the pool operator. Does anyone know what that number is? Is there a minimum number, or is there a good number to use?
I'm not aware. I know that that's like you said, the pool operator's personal funds or funds that they've collected in ahead of time to set the node up. It's not the user's delegated funds. But what the number is, I'm not sure. I haven't heard that number yet.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I've read about that was in the Google Doc in the stake pool best practices. And I can't find that Google Doc. I wanted to have it for this live cast. I can't find it. I said, well, we're going to have to do the cast anyway. We got enough smart people around here. We should be able to do it. But the more a pool operator pledges towards their pool, the more desirable the pool will be. So I read that out of the Google Doc. And on stake pool best practices. So
I believe you're correct as I understand, and I believe the best way to explain that is because if a pool didn't have any stake at all, then because users' delegated stake can be withdrawn at any time, the pool itself could potentially have zero funding without the operator's initial stake.
okay, so slot leader with zero value would be signing transactions and signing blocks.
Well, you just wouldn't be even picked. You would end up that node would be producing empty blocks is what would end up happening.
Okay, that's good to know about that. And that's kind of related to a question that was in the chat from the user Mass Adaption. He said, is there a cap of how much ADA you can have running a node? So that would be a cap. I'm assuming the question means if you're a pool operator. Is there a cap as a pool operator? No. But is there a cap on how much ADA is delegated to one particular pool? Anyone know how that works?
There isn't a cap per se, but there is a saturation point that the pool can reach where it's no longer, the pool would no longer be economically incentivized to continue to grow because the rewards do not grow proportionally forever. They trail off.
Okay, so once you hit a point, and I don't know what that point is, but I estimated it.
That's to keep centralization of the pools down, right? You don't want one giant pool that controls all the funds in the ecosystem. So that's to maintain decentralization.
Yep, and that totally makes sense. And the way I estimated it was if you take total ADA available and you want 1,000 pools, and there's 25 billion divided by 1,000 means a saturation point would be about 25 million approximately. That's not exactly how the math works, but that's just an example of how it would be calculated.
It's a good approximation, I'd say.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right, Darren. Anything to add to that?
No, you're doing great.
All right. Cool. All right. Thanks. So, what was the minimum ADA? What's the minimum ADA required to stake? I love this question. You know what would be funny, guys? Before we go on, is if like Charles Hoskinson were to dial into the chat and start asking us questions, That would be hilarious. I just thought, no,
So
he's
cool.
not in there yet.
Charles is always fun to talk to, so I hope he does.
Yeah, he's on vacation. So I think he's taking a hiatus from
That's right.
social media.
We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again when he's not on vacation and see. Oh, look, he popped in the chat. He should do a reverse AMA where he goes on, he goes live and he asks everybody else questions and they have to answer them.
That'd
That
be
would
fun.
be kind of
like,
funny.
Like Jeopardy.
Yeah, like Jeopardy. That would be pretty good. I'd like that.
Texas with a $sign.
Make a game show out of it with some ADA rewards at the end if you don't get blown away. All right. So minimum ADA required to stake 1 ADA. That's it. What was the? I heard estimates on Ethereum. ETH was like 32 ETH or 34 ETH or something like that. Not to pick on ETH. ETH is great, good stuff. I'm not being tribal here.
Something interesting to note, actually. I mean, there is a practical minimum, right? Because you do have to sign the transactions delegating your stake in the first place, right? So there's a minimum transaction fee of 1 point whatever it is based on the byte size and all that, right? So to delegate 1 ADA, you're actually going to spend more than that in transaction fees to delegate your 1 ADA.
That's good to know. I just learned something new. So that's good to know because to delegate that, there are other proof of stake where with Dash, if you want to run a master node, they call it a master node. You're going to have to put in. Last time I calculated, it was about $60,000 to $100,000 to run a Dash node. That's to be the operator of the node.
Yeah,
yeah, it was a lot of money.
Well, that's why Dash is so expensive, because the master nodes were bought up way back in the day. Now you can't get it.
Yeah, that was missed entry on that. The good thing with ADA, to run a node, you just need to have the technical expertise to be able to do it, to be the pool operator, but to be a participant, a miner, so to speak, you simply have to have ADA and delegate it. The next question there was, which wallet should I use? And there's some wallets you can, some wallets you can't. Daedalus and Yoroi. Those are the two wallets. Daedalus definitely first, and Yoroi probably right alongside. There are some examples online that you can see from Emergo on the Yoroi staking simulator. The simulator, last I checked, isn't running yet, but it shows you exactly how the staking process will work. You fill out this form on the web page and it delegates your stake. You guys seen that?
Yeah, the UX that the boys over at Emergo are doing is pretty nice. I just received a ledger in the mail, so I haven't really used the things before, to be honest with you. So using Yoroi with the ledger was a cool experience. It's very user friendly. Yeah.
It is. It's one of my favorites. And if anybody sets up Yoroi with the ledger, remember, start with the fresh Yoroi wallet. If you already have it set up, it doesn't connect to the ledger. You do it from the beginning, so the ledger becomes the key to let you in. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And for Daedalus, we've also seen example UIs thrown out there, or UX. What's UX? User interface or user experience?
UX is user experience. UI is the interface.
Okay. UI is the user interface. So I've seen examples of that. Look pretty simple. I think you'll have it. It should be easy enough, but there will be plenty of training videos out on how to use these interfaces. But yeah, staking from Yoroi. I don't know if you'll be able to stake from ADA Lite. There's another question on there that was, can you stake from an exchange? So far as I know, no. The answer is no. You cannot stake from an exchange. Have you guys heard otherwise?
Yeah.
Pretty much that's it. You can't stake from an exchange.
Well, the problem is that, like, they're designing a client for the exchanges specifically to help them manage, the massive number of wallets they would have and that type of thing. And those clients are not, they're not going to be able to stake. But the thing is that you can't stop anyone from running a stake node. Binance could set up a stake node. It's a permissionless system. Anyone can run a node. So it's kind of like on the honor system, I suppose, right?
Right. And Binance right now is sitting on about 3.5 billion users ADA.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
the
true.
biggest wallet.
It's true. And, you know, the centralization of funds at exchanges like that is a major issue, in my opinion, anyways. Not your keys, it's not your crypto.
Right. And it's users need to get their crypto. I suggest, just a suggestion, get it back in your wallet before the hard fork. Otherwise, it might be stuck in one place until they upgrade
That's
their
true.
API.
That's very true. We've seen that type of thing in the past over and over and over again. You know, people are lulled into this, the Binance haze. Everybody loves CZ.
They do. Plus, it's easy to make a quick trade. If you see something rise or dump, you just go, "Oh, I'm going to trade it because it's already sitting on the exchange." But yeah, that's if your funds are on the exchange when the hard fork occurs and the exchange has not upgraded their API, you might have to wait. Your funds will be stuck until they upgrade. Okay, so that's something to be alert to. There was another thing. Can an exchange run a stake pool? Did we hit
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah, that's what we were
Yeah.
just discussing.
All right. And can you stake from exchange? No, but the exchange can run the stake pool.
It'll be interesting to see what the position that they take on this is, or do they support decentralization or not, I guess is the biggest question. I think that they will claim to, but I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, there will be some I guess political or cultural things that exchanges will address. They're going to try to maximize their profits. That's what they
right.
have to do.
100%.
Yeah, they got to maximize their profits to run.
It's going to be there's going to be an interesting exercise there to see how the economics of the coin are affected by that price fluctuation, trading volume, all that. If people can't stake on the exchanges, coins are going to come off the exchanges. Therefore, potentially less trading volume.
Well, that's
Just
very interesting.
Just to see how that shakes out.
That is very interesting because you can't stake coins that you can't trade coins that you've got staking, I guess. You know what I mean? It's an interesting dynamic.
That's my point. We shall see.
Yeah, so the exchanges are want to incentivize users to put their coins on the exchange.
Right.
The staking process is going to incentivize users to put it in their wallet. The users are going to have to figure out, where do I want to make more money? Do I want to have it on the exchange making my trades, or stick it in my wallet, make money? Right now, the only people who are making money on that kind of stuff are the traders, and it's the traders that don't suck. A lot of people lose money on it too. I prefer staking. You just stick it in a wallet, point your wallet, and say, okay, grow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a bond almost, right? That's how I like to think of this system. You're putting up a security against, you're putting up capital as a security, so it's very stable in theory. If you've picked a pool that you trust and keeps good control of their operating system so that you're earning constant rewards.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what? We need to segue back to that because I hadn't really touched on pool trust as we went up to here on that first question. How do I pick a pool? That's what the users are going to be asking the most. That's probably the number one question. How do I pick the right one? Inside the UI examples that I've seen for data lists, they're going to be marked. Each pool is going to have a little tag, a little box or window. It's going to be marked green, yellow, and red. Green are pools that are more reliable, and the higher up the list they percolate, the more reliable the pool is, the higher the desirability factor. Okay? There are many factors that go into desirability. They're going to be automated. They're going to be automatically calculated. Do you remember what they are, OCG?
I haven't heard very much about the reputation system. to be honest, I'd like to hear more. I'm not sure who's in charge of that portion. You know, there's so much information spread out all over the place. It's hard to keep track of all the individual pieces of this. You know, it's a massive project.
It is, and the data is on multiple websites. But the main desirability factors that I saw listed are uptime is number one, pool operator pledge is a significant factor. Oh shoot, what were the other ones? It was kind of like uptime and pledge.
That makes the most sense. Those are probably the two most important criteria, regardless. You know, there may be other factors, but I would say there may be, for example, a voting system or some kind of feedback system from the community. But I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I didn't see, there was no human from what I've read and looked at. There's no human upvote, downvote, like none of that stuff. It's all completely automated by the network and the nodes, and it's calculated by machine, which I think is a really good idea because upvotes and downvotes can be abused. All right. Go ahead, OCG. I'm going to read the viewer questions and wrap my head around the viewers' questions and tell us what else you think.
Yeah. So I don't know. What else can we say about the staking pools that hasn't been discussed to death already?
Well, yeah. Well, the how to pick a pool part is, do you know the pool operator, which means you would know that they're an honest participant?
Yeah,
because Cardano's not going to have slashing like Ethereum plans to have. Cardano's penalty is simply you won't get your reward. You're going to lose money because you won't be rewarded. But in Ethereum, you're going to get slashed. And I don't know exactly how they define that, but they mean they're going to take away the funds that were applied.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different economic model. But I mean, for users on a practical level, as far as choosing a pool, you know, we've started developing a few Telegram groups that users are able to join to familiarize themselves with node operators. There are several community members there that are planning on running pools that have been very active. Have there's lots of information on their websites. So if you want a trusted source that can be vetted by the Cardano team, then I would suggest that would be a good place for people to start doing some research.
Yeah, you mean like to figure out which pools you should be pointing towards and which ones not, because the pool operators have a big challenge ahead of them. Getting their name out there. 1,000 pools is a lot, and there are a lot of participants in the stake pool best practice working group. So I think we're going to have a lot of successful pools come up online very early on.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm going to scan through the user questions, then we'll come back to the last few that we have here. Like, there's some tough questions here. What are the returns on staking? You know, that's a good one to have a think on. Let's see what else we have in here. From Mass Adaption. Thank you, Mass Adaption, for dialing in here and asking some good questions. We very much appreciate that. And Mass Adaption asks, is there an incentive mechanism that rewards the node runner? The more ADA I have vested, the more money I make, kind of thing. Yes. So is there an incentive mechanism for the person running the node?
I'm not sure if that would be possible to have, you know, this sort of tiered system of reward payouts. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But having more ADA staked simply means that you have more chances to be elected as a slot leader. So,
yeah, and I think this one also ties into the fact that the pool operator will be able to increase the percentage. So some pools, for example, there's a pool, Generous Pool, or someone, I can't really give you a name. Some pools plan to operate at a very low percentage. So when the users get their stake back, let's say I set my pool at 1%. the user will get 99% of their rewards, and I would get 1% of their reward. So that's my incentive to run a pool, is to get that 1%. If my opinion is, people who want to run competitive pools with the best infrastructure may have to charge some percentage. So if a user's payout is 3.5%, and they point to a pool that has a 1% pool fee, then the user will get their 100% of their stake, the 3.5% return minus that 1% pool fee, which is a very, very small percentage, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The 100% of the 3.5%, right? You know,
Yes.
they're going to get 99% of the 3.5%, right?
Yes, you'll get 99% of the 3.5%. Correct.
So I think it's important to note here when you're talking about like pool fees, there's definitely a cost involved to run this infrastructure. I mean, while it's fair to say that anyone can run a node from their personal computer at home or on a Raspberry Pi, for example, in reality, a staking pool is probably not going to be running on these types of systems. They're going to be running on dedicated servers and mainframes, you know, that are with redundant power supplies and multiple servers running in multiple geographic locations as well. You know, so there's definitely a cost involved to maintain the highest quality service, which is the peak amount of uptime. So there's a trade-off there. You know, if you're picking a pool with zero fee, you have to be aware that they are subsidizing all the expenses of running that pool, and that may not last, or you may not experience you may not have the best user experience. So there is a trade-off there when you're trying to calculate your reward versus what the pool is taking as a fee.
Yes, there is. And the rock pies, I think, where they will come in handy is in areas that are very remote and very sparse, where you got to power them either by solar power or local battery power, and you just need a real quick node set up. Well, I shouldn't say real quick, but you just need a node running, because the nodes need to be geographically dispersed. We can't just concentrate all of the nodes in one area. Like, you know, my area, we got nuclear power and high speed internet. Okay, well, they can't all be in this area. They got to be in other places too, right? So,
well, I think, you know, it's a good point. You know, you could have a number of rock pies that are a network of nodes, a network of relay nodes, for example, connected to a pool. There are technical benefits to running on this massive network of small systems, but these devices are inherently more prone to power fluctuations, and they may not be as reliable as a full-fledged server. That's the point I'm trying to make.
yes, I agree. And I think the main devices are going to be full-fledged servers with an UPS and alternate internet access, and clustered nodes running out there on, how does it work? Like Amazon Web Service or something like that?
Yeah, and you know, there a lot of people will be running on cloud services like Amazon or Google or you know, you name it.
Yeah, a couple people did videos on YouTube to show you how to set up a node on an Amazon Web Service. So if anybody's interested in that, you know, check out YouTube. There's a lot of stuff out there. And there's also stuff on the IOHK GitHub that tells you how to set up the node on the Jormungandr. If I'm saying Jormungandr correctly, I've never heard anyone pronounce it the same way twice.
That's how I've been saying it, Jormungandr.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, that word could be abused, man. Yeah. My Jormungandr, I got it stuck in my zipper. All right. So so I got to say stupid stuff once in a while. So a couple more questions here. That was from Mass Adoption. Thanks for that. A Mass Adoption. From Bobo Bonanza. He says ADA has a max supply of 45 billion. So if an exchange gets 22 billion, 500 million and one, thus they could just steal it and become the central bank of ADA because they would always maintain 51% of the vote. That is correct.
That is correct.
That is correct. So the way the staking works is if any one user gets 50 plus 1% of the stake at any point in time in history, they can always attack the network.
That I want to say I should we should be correct here. That's not actually always the case, I don't think, because consensus between all these different systems is different. It's not always 51%. You know, like for example, you may need a 2/3 honest majority, but I'm not. I don't have papers in front of me to actually quote things properly, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, because what happens is if you make a mistake, not only did you put out bad information, but you'll have people smashing on a keyboard going, "You lied! You lied!" There's a difference between making an honest mistake and lying. The result is the same, but the intention is different.
It's true. I am fallible.
I am fallible too, and that's why we're doing this, so we can get our fallibilities out of the way. And yeah, there we go. Because this is a good warm up that we're doing here. 6 months from now, if we do another Saturday Night Live, it'll be hot, man.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be real hot. Okay, so let me fire through some more. Thanks, Boba Bonanza, for that. Josh Monday, there's Josh Monday dialing in on the chat. Sorry, I'm a little behind on these questions. Exchanges, Josh Monday says exchange will only be able to stake if they have the right type of address. If they have an exchange address, they won't be able to stake, as far as I know. That is also the last information I've heard. An exchange will have a special address that you won't be able to stake from.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. The exchanges are expected to run a unique node client.
Okay.
So the client itself won't have the ability to create blocks. But again, it's up to the exchange to, the exchange could run a separate node, a regular node, and try keep all of their users' funds staking to that node, for example, right? So again, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out economically in practice. And
yes, and that answers Boba Bonanza's question, which was the next question. Who's going to stop them from getting a proper address? And you can't stop everything. Currently, IOHK would stop them from it because they have to help them install the special nodes or the special APIs or however they do it. So the tech support of getting it's a different kind of node. And also something that Old Crypto Geek pointed out twice is on the incentives, and Darren mentioned the incentives. I've read a piece of information that IOHK is going to have a incentive specialist, like a monetary specialist person, and they're going to have them analyze. When we start doing rewards on the testnet, they're going to look at how we do rewards and how to most effectively optimize the reward process to secure the network, kind of thing. So one of the questions we can't answer is, what are the returns on staking? It's complicated.
There's some magic numbers in there that are variable, right? So nothing is really set in stone at this time. A lot of it is based on how many transactions are happening on the network and the size of the transactions, like from a data bandwidth perspective. But yeah, nothing is really firmly set in stone yet.
Yeah, it's not. And if you want to practice the staking calculator, you can try it. There's one on Ruslan Duden's GitHub, which is Antipolis, and he has a staking calculator on there. but it doesn't tell you the percentage. You dial in your percentages, you dial in many different values, and you're still going to be confused. At least I was.
Yeah, like those sliders. He did a great job on that.
He
But
did.
this is the point that he was trying to show everyone, is that each of those sliders is a variable in the network. It's a dynamic system, and those sliders will be changing, naturally. So the percentages will change according to the variables in the system in a live scenario.
Yeah, it will. And I think it'll be dynamic. I think as network usage goes up and down and value goes up and down, there will be some dynamic changes to the network to make sure things don't go totally out of whack. What those things are, we don't know. It's got to be experimented.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think, let's say the value were to go up or down, on exchange, people would be incentivized to sell or buy, and that movement of funds is going to affect how much stake is in the system at one point. So because there's such a fluidity of transaction possibility here, the system has to be able to react to those changes dynamically, I guess, is the best way to think about it.
Yeah, and there's another problem we'll be facing is that people may choose not to stake, or they might stake incorrectly, or they might forget to stake. They bought their ADA a year ago and said, I'll leave it sit. And when it shows up on the news in the year 2024, then I'll look at it again. Well, that ADA is not going to get staked.
Correct.
And that's how some people do it. Yeah. All right. Let me check out a few more questions here. I had Ira Bliss says, hey, Ira, good to see you on there. He says, if you use a ledger, you have to use a wallet on a PC or Mac. So it goes on this question. You can use the only ledger you could use. Yeah, use it with a PC or Mac. All right. Let's see if you use a ledger. So I think that's when you're staking. When you're staking, you will be able to stake from the ledger. That's correct. You will be able to stake from a PC or ledger. Scrolling down, let me get caught up here. Oops. I lost track. Shoot, there's a lot of questions here. Are gifts allowed here? No. I'm very skeptical proof of stake can work with a supply cap. I think it can. There's a lot of research papers. IOHK has 43 papers. 40 of them, about 40 of them are peer reviewed, and 2 or 3 of them in draft.
Looks like there's a good question about KYC and AML on Cardano.
Go for it. I'm scrolled way up. What do you got?
Moon Ant asks, how is KYC and AML going to work on Cardano proof of stake? I think the digital identity is one of the biggest things that is looked at in the dataless wallet right now, because there's going to be certain situations where KYC is necessary from a regulatory perspective, depending on the country that you're in. We don't want to be in a situation where you would be excluded from participating in a regulated system. But that the key here is being able to share personal information. The correctness of the information, the fact that you are eligible, should be able to be shared without sharing all of your personal information. So the work that Cardano is doing, zero knowledge proofs and that type of thing right now, is going to allow KYC where it's required, but keeping your identity secure.
Yes, and OCG, you answer the good advanced stuff. I like that. At first, when we first start doing staking, there will be no KYC. But in the long run, OCG answered, in the long run, it will be that method you just described where there are proofs where I don't have to give away my home address and my name and my birth date. I can just provide a proof that says I'm old enough. And the proof is all they need to validate, right?
Correct. But the delegation process is pseudonymous, whatever, however you pronounce it.
Pseudo anonymous.
Yeah, whatever it is. I haven't had enough coffee today, apparently. But yeah, no, it's just associated with your wallet address. So there's no name or personal information associated with delegating your stake.
Excellent. Yeah, the stake delegation, no KYC, but in the future with more advanced transactions and with the computation layer and all the metadata, there will be ways of encapsulating it and encrypting it and multi-party computation and all that cool stuff to maintain privacy. And there's also a description in a paper called Ouroboros Crypsinus, which is the paper that describes how privacy will be maintained. So if you're concerned about KYC and AML, check out the Ouroboros Crypsinus paper. And check out the quiz on my Twitter feed that people are getting a lot of it wrong. So
yeah, that'll apply more to to STOs and that type of like regulated financial market participation.
okay. Oh, so that's a good point. When you want to properly put
An STO,
digitized assets on the blockchain.
That's right.
Right.
In a regulated way that will comply with, the SEC and everything else.
Awesome. Yeah, Cardano has a plan to handle that. It might not be written in code yet, but at least it was put down on paper. Hey, this is how we're going to do it. It's not like a big giant science experiment with my money. So I got a question from Billy Ferguson. This is a good one, not Cardano related. He says, Rick, hey, on Saturn Network, the 1x coin I bought tokens and waited 3 days, and I go back and try to mint my tokens like my wall is not syncing with the website. Thanks. I don't know how that works. Mine worked. I went to the 1x website and clicked mint, and then poof, magically the coins appeared.
What website is he looking at?
Billy, let them know what website you're looking at, but the website I did it at was on 1x.network, 1x.net. I could probably pull it up on here, but I don't have that. Oh, I do have that wallet on here.
I can pull up the.
I have too many tabs open, and I'm confused. I always open it up in Chrome, and right now I'm looking at Safari. Oh, 1x.network. And you have to go to the calculator. All right, Billy, go to 1x.network, click on calculator, then you scroll down, and you have to use the web browser that has your Saturn wallet in it, and you have to be logged into your Saturn wallet. If you're logged into the wallet, you go to the website, and you click mint, and it will mint your tokens.
That is correct.
That's how you do it. I did a video on it. Check out my other video on my YouTube channel. It's somewhere in there. It's buried in there. I forget
That's
where
cool.
it's at.
People talking about Onyx. Wow.
Yeah, Onyx. Was I saying that wrong? Onyx?
That's what I say. I think it's actually
1x.
1x.
Yeah,
I think I call it Onyx also.
Yeah. That's a proof of stake ERC 223, which is better than an ERC 20. So I'm hoping Cardano will, when it supports ERC 20, I hope it also supports ERC 223 and something better than that. But I digress. All right, I digress. Questions. We had that last question we answered well, I hope. I think we're good with the whiteboard.
Absolutely.
Moon Ant asks, how will good question, Moon Ant. How will nodes be regulated? Taxes. They're not. That's why I'm doing it. No, I'm just kidding. How will nodes be regulated? You got to be honest.
Yeah, the node operators will be, liable for maintaining tax compliance in their own jurisdictions.
Yeah, there's a lot of money out there that can be laundered. You just got to be honest when you do your taxes, because if you get caught, it's more painful.
That's true.
Yeah, back 5% a month if you screw up your taxes, a month. 60% a year. You ain't going to make that on a staking node. That's what you pay in tax penalties. 5% a month, at least in the USA, federal. I don't know from experience. A friend told me that. So Mass Adaption says, what happens if I decide to run my node solo, detached from any other pool? Does that affect my reward? Great question, Mass Adaption. I don't know. If you solo mine or solo stake.
If you have enough stake to do that, that's a great option. In that case, then you might want to just run on one of these small rock spy systems, for example. If you've got enough stake that you aren't concerned about trying to, if you've got enough stake to do it, it's great.
Yeah. So if it goes through the lottery, it's like if you have enough ADA, you have enough lottery tickets, you're going to get picked as a slot leader, you're going to sign the block and get the block reward.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Awesome. All right. Persuaso says IT does not mass MASS, but if you do not have enough stake, you may not be picked to create blocks.
Exactly.
Thank you, Persuaso. The more coins you have at stake, the better chance to get picked. Josh Monday also provided an answer to Boba. Theoretic. So there's an answer. Thank you for that, Josh. Anything else? What about Ledger Nano X and Yoroi? Oh, Ira, you can use Ledger Nano X with Yoroi, but you have to plug the cable in. You can't use the Bluetooth yet. So Ledger Nano X works with Yoroi. Yoroi, to pronounce it correctly. Got to use the USB cable, not Bluetooth. The Elite Trance asks, will there be tutorials on how to create a stable coin through Cardano? Ooh, that's an advanced question. Like, if there's a tutorial on how to use a stable coin, I could do that, but I don't know how to create one.
Well, the idea of a stable coin is kind of a misnomer. I mean, the idea is that there would be some pool of fiat in an account somewhere that's linked to the amount of tokens that you've created. Tether, for example, when money comes into the account, then they produce more Tether and burn Tether as money comes out of the account. The idea of trying to be keeping a peg from the dollar to USDT, right? So to create a stable coin is some code, but it's also banking relationships, which are the hardest part to do in this space right now. That's why you see people like the Winklevoss twins who have the banking connections and the money to go after these things. It's not something that anybody off the street is probably going to undertake.
Yeah, creating the stablecoin is difficult. You know what I heard from someone? I don't want to quote anybody, but their first name rhymes with Charles, and the last name rhymes with Oskinson. But I remember somebody saying that to put a stable coin on Cardano, you would have to have smart contracts, and then the smart contract would throttle up and down based on the demand, and that would adjust for. I'm assuming if there was a greater demand for the tokens, the smart contract would allow more of the stable coins to be generated, and as demand throttled back, it would generate less, and that would stabilize the value.
The interesting thing to think about there is how the contract is actually getting that information. Like, what information is it reacting to? It's one thing to say that it's an automated process, but what's the feedback coming into that contract to make things change, to change those dynamics? You need trusted information in the first place. If you're, this is one of the toughest challenges right now is proving information reliable.
It is, and a stable coin is a tough challenge because it's either you back it with a physical asset or a fiat, which defeats the point of the crypto.
Yeah, it's
Or
not a tough challenge for them right now because they're in complete control over it.
Yeah.
Right. It's behind a magic curtain. So the challenge is in implementing a system that's actually decentralized and actually autonomous
Mhm.
in a way that we can trust.
Right. You're like Saturn Network, yeah.
Yeah. Saturn's an excellent example of a system that operates autonomously without human intervention. Yeah, it's a great example.
Yeah, you can trust it because it's just code. There's no one behind the scenes that would either get greedy
Right.
or make a mistake. Okay, the code's going to do what the code's going to do.
The contract is deployed, and you can be certain that it will always act the exact same way every time.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to see Cardano connect to that eventually. That would be brilliant. That'd be fantastic. All right, so sorry, go ahead, OCG. I got another couple more questions here, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, Saturn. We're just waiting for go-given. Really, we've been looking at Cardano for quite a while.
Yeah, I'll bet. Did you plan on deploying everything in Solidity, or are you going to switch over to Plutus when you go from Saturn? When you plug it Cardano into the Saturn network?
I'm not in charge of development by any stretch on that project. I'm in communication with the team, but I'm not certain what they plan to do at this point. There's been some discussion that I know that the developers are quite comfortable with Solidity, and that they're not very anxious to reinvent the wheel as far as their language. So they may very well choose to use Solidity, but it remains to be seen.
Okay. Well, either way, I trust. Either way, I trust it because I don't have to trust it.
Yeah, I don't think. I think, to be honest with you, I think that they will probably use Plutus at the end of the day. I think that the advantages of it will be attractive to Neuron.
The smartest guy I ever met on the internet.
Yeah, he's pretty smart. He's a very interesting individual.
Yeah.
Shout out. Love you guys.
Shout out to Neuron.
Yeah, the whole
Wizard.
team over there. So good group. Yeah, Wizard,
Sam, Alex, all these guys. All right.
Yep.
So, all right, couple more questions here, and also comments. The elite trans says the problem is people print to my printer. I'd like them to use the printer drivers that make deposit on my printer. Okay, I don't know if that was talking about. Oh, I see. He was asking about the stable coin. Got it. Work with the printer manufacturer to make stable coins. Okay, so Billy, to get more information on that, and I think I got an idea of what he means. But for more information, check out the Cardano developers channel if you want to connect, because the key question there is, who do I connect to, or how can I get help working on this? So the Cardano developers channel might have people that could help you with those ideas. And Billy Ferguson says, don't leave, Rick. I'm driving through Virginia and I pulled over so that way I can stay up with the chat. I love communicating with you guys. And I learned a lot. It's awesome, Billy. That's good to hear. And I'm in Virginia too. So get some coffee. It's not too late yet. Make sure you have your coffee if you're up late driving. Let's see. What else we got? Are you guys ready to wrap up here? Let me fire through a couple more. Mass adoption. Hey, Rick, the girlfriend and I are going to Japan for vacation. Any suggestions on where to visit? Yes, mass adoption. Visit Hakone, Hakone. You will love it. Take the proper tours. Cable car goes up over Volcanic Ridge. So visit Hakone and visit Mount Fuji. Depends on when you go there, what time of year. You can go up to the top of Mount Fuji in August. So Trade Feed says, great tats. Thanks. I have many more. I've got some up on my shoulders. I got some on my back. So anyway, thank you for that. Sorry, we're talking about crypto. So the whole Josh Monday says the whole stablecoin thing, if it's something that the community wants, we could vote for it and use funding to pay for someone like IOHK to develop one for the community to use. Yes, that is correct. We could do that. And once we get to Voltaire, it will be a Cardano improvement process and community members vote on it. So at some point, we're going to need to do one of these chats, guys. Darren, OCG, we're going to have to do more of these for staking. We're going to have to do these for smart contracts, although I don't know very much about those things when we get to Goguen. And when it comes to the improvement proposal process and voting, we'll have to do more of these types of events. So there's going to be plenty more of these kinds of events that we'll need to do live streams on. All right.
I think it's important to note there, Josh brings up a good point. I think that we're going to see more third-party developers in that space than probably IOHK themselves, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not certain that IOHK would even want to be involved in a stablecoin. These are more like I say, these are more like banking investment vehicles or liquidity vehicles, I guess is a better way to describe it.
I agree.
It's more of a third party thing.
Right. And when we say third party, that third party could be any major company out there that says, you know what? I want a stable coin to provide an exchange of value for my customers. So we don't have to mess with reward points. We don't have to mess with converting currencies. A company that might ship products across borders or whatever, and they say, look, we just would use this stable coin. And they would be the third party to say, let's build this thing. Let's make a stable coin that runs on Cardano or any of the other currencies out there, because there's a lot of good cryptocurrencies out there. Yeah, third parties, definitely.
You need the system to interact with, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the purpose of the stablecoin in the first place? Is just a way for you to hedge against volatility. First, we need the exchange. For that, we need the smart contracts.
Yep, I agree. And you know what? That's why I think crypto is not used as pocket change currently, is because I'm like, oh, I don't want to spend this crypto because it might moon next month, But there is a lot of really good adoption going out. Like right now in the United States at the Safeway stores, you can get your change in Bitcoin. So whatever your change is, if it's 59 cents change, instead of getting it in coins, you can get 0.00000015 Bitcoin or whatever it is to get down to that small number.
Who's doing this?
Safeway.
Is that for everyone, or is that through Trilolly?
I think it's Trilolly. I think that's the name of the company that's supporting it. I remember seeing that name.
Trilolly. Yeah, Trilolly. So they're great. If anybody is, if people haven't heard about Trilolly, it's awesome. Basically, there's a list of supported retailers. You shop through Trilolly at the same retailers you would be shopping at normally, and a percentage of the amount that you spend on your purchases will be returned to you in Bitcoin.
Yep, and that can build up over time. If you don't use credit card, everybody uses credit card now, though. I can't remember the last time I used cash.
Well, this is the thing. You're still spending cash to make your purchases. You're not using Bitcoin to make your purchases. You're spending cash, but you're receiving a percentage back in Bitcoin as an incentive to use their service.
Yeah. So awesome. Trilolly interfaces with a lot of other services, lots of services.
Yeah, Walmart, you name it.
Oh, cool. I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm going to have to look that up. All right. Doesn't look like there's any other questions in the chat. Is it possible to run a pool from a data center without using AWS or Azure?
Yes.
Yeah. You just pick a different data center. Any data center.
And you can host a node on any compatible system.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Who cares about Cardano? The Earth is flat. Thank you, Win James. Win James called us meatheads.
Oh, yeah.
Mwah, love you too, man. How do you spell that? The Elite Trance wants to know, how do you spell Trilolly? Trilolly.
Let me
looks
pull
correct.
up the website here. I think it's try.lolly is the website.
Try.lolly.
That's not it. A
Okay.
sec.
We'll see. Let OCG look that up. In the meantime, I'll go to this last one here. Mass Adaption was saying, I was thinking earlier IOHK should have coin machines like they have at the banks, where you bring your spare change and the bank gives you money, but instead you get 8 of your change. Whoa, that's an interesting idea. They have those at the shopping center right over here behind my house. You go dump your coins in the thing, and then it prints you out a receipt, and you can either use that little receipt to buy your groceries or you take it to the register. But that's a neat idea. Any way you can replace cash. Okay.
Lolly.com.
Yeah, some people have gallons. Lolly.com. Try. How do you say that?
LOLLI.com. It's try Lolly on Twitter.
Oh, so in order to LLL,
It's LOLLI.com.
got it. Let me type that in the chat.
Yeah.
LOLLI.com. Right. Yeah. Okay. There you go. All right. So we're about done. We're about done here, guys. What do you think? Darren, anything to add?
It was a lot of fun.
Good. Excellent. Someone's making fun of me. October Black. He said, Rick, you're a robot. Thanks, October Black. I appreciate it. That's a scary avatar you have there. All right, guys. That's all we got. OCG, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Darren, always a pleasure. Will I see you guys back again in the future when we do another one of these?
You betcha. This was awesome.
All right. So I put the link in there, and I'll drop these links in the Cardano stake pool best practices when we dial into the chat. If we do more of these, that way people can participate in the Google Hangouts. Thank you all for being here. Y'all have a good night. And thank you, everyone, all the viewers and people leaving us questions. Very much appreciated. Y'all have a great evening.
You too, Rick. See you later.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.